what's the difference between the environment and everything? There's no difference. What's the difference between climate and everything? Well, there's no difference. So this is a crisis of everything? It's like, no, it's not. Or if it is, well, if it really is, then we're done because we can't fix everything.
Well,
but we have to.
What they mean specifically is the human, what human beings are doing that's causing the Earth to warm.
Right, so right. But you have to include all these factors in the models to determine that. All these factors. Well, what can you not include? Well, then by deciding what you don't include, you decide which set of variables are cardinal. And you have to make that decision in some sense before you even generate the models. This is a big problem. It's partly, it's not the only reason, but there's another reason, another problem that bedevils climate modeling too, which is that as you stretch out the models across time, the errors increase radically. And so maybe you can predict out a week or 3 weeks or a month or a year, but the farther out you predict, the more your model's in error. And that's a huge problem when you're trying to model over 100 years because the errors compound just like interest. And so at some point, it's all error. In fact, it's already the case that even if the climate models are right, the error bars are so wide by 100 years out that we'll never be able to measure the effects of the changes we're making now. We'll never know if the changes we're making, to save the climate actually worked. We can't measure it. The errors are too large 100 years out.
Sorry, I just have to jump in here real quick and say that there are decades and decades of scientific inquiry and literature about some of these things, and climate models are largely accurate in predicting climatic change, and we know that the greenhouse effect is real, and we humans dump tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, which along with solar forcing heats up the planet, and a bunch of other stuff that scientists know since the first half of the 20th century. And when people talk about the environment, they traditionally mean the complex of physical, chemical, and biotic factors that act upon an organism or an ecological community and ultimately determine its form and survival, otherwise known as the literal definition of the word. And what was that about errors compounding like interest, like 1 week, 2 weeks, months in the future? Mr. Doctor, sir, it sounds like you're confusing climate and weather. And weather predictions do get more wrong over time. Kind of like you, I guess, actually. But climate is conditions over time, takes carbon and solar forcing into account, etc., and so forth. Any error is accounted for by providing ranges based on the amount of CO2 we pump into the atmosphere. But then again, atmosphere is everything, so it's really nothing, right? Why is he being so purposefully obtuse and being like, well, what's climate even mean? What even are words? I thought this guy was a scientist. I'm sorry. I know I said I was a huge Jordan Peterson fan, but maybe I'm thinking of a different guy. I said I had other clips. Can I see one?
Let me tell you, as a neuroscientist.
Okay, so wait, he's a neuroscientist? I mean, that explains the tuxedo, but that has nothing to do with climate science. Explain yourself or interrupt me with another clip.
I'm an evolutionary biologist, by the way, not a political philosopher.
All right, hold up. So he's an evolutionary biologist and a neuroscientist, neither of which have anything to do with climate science. Still, that is a lot of degrees, so he must be smart, right? I wonder where he went to school. Wish I could look that up. Oh, you know what? I just remembered that thanks to the miracle of tiny rectangles, I can. Fake typing, and oh, okay. So it looks like he completed his undergraduate degree at Grand Prairie College and the University of Alberta and got a PhD in psychology, and that's it. No mention of neuroscience or evolutionary biology, the two things he's said on camera that he's a doctor of. Peterson went on to be a professor of psychology at Harvard in the 90s. Oh, maybe he met that Will Hunting fellow. That'd be cool. And then a professor at the University of Toronto, where he also teaches psychology, and that's still it. Okay, well, charitably, I think maybe he wasn't necessarily being a weird liar, but was instead saying that he is arguing from the point of view of neuroscience and evolutionary biology. That's a generous interpretation. Also, Will Hunting went to MIT and not Harvard, so they probably didn't meet at all. Also, that was a fictional film. Still, considering there's a D and an octar before his name, it seems easy to assume he's like an expert in those things. Like, if you were a professor, a doctor of psychology, and let's say one of your rules to follow for life is to be precise in your speech, a serious scientist wouldn't flippantly say, let me tell you as a neuroscientist, or I'm an evolutionary biologist. Because you're not. you're a psychologist. You'd say it differently. Not to mention how confidently he speaks, specifically about climate science, which I'm sure you've realized he appears to have absolutely zero academic experience with. I mean, I don't either. I majored in juggling at Piss University. Go fighting kidney stones. So who am I to talk? But also, I think maybe I just don't know enough about this guy to call myself a fan. And me calling myself a fan was just a flimsy premise for me to originally reject the notion that Peterson is actually a ridiculous clown man. But now I'm going to accept the call to adventure, cross the threshold into knowing more about this guy, and maybe being critical of some things he says, and go on a journey of discovery. For I am the hero. So, yeah, I guess I'll just go watch a bunch of Jordan Peterson videos. Okay, this guy's a real piece of work, man. I got some stuff to say, but before we go into all the clips and papers and thoughts and bullshit, I want to address those fans of Peterson who might think I'm taking him out of context or being uncharitable, or as Peterson notes here, dismissing everything he says because of one weird statement here and there.
But then it's necessary to separate the wheat from the chaff. You know, one of the things I see with readers who are unsophisticated and intellectually arrogant is they'll read someone great. Maybe they'll read Nietzsche, for example, and they'll find the odd thing that Nietzsche said that grates against their current moral sensibilities, whether they do that in context or out. And then they'll throw away the whole book. It's like, you don't throw away the whole book. It was Nietzsche. You don't throw away the book. He's like 1 in a billion. You read it carefully and you think, well, okay, no to that. But yes to this.
And so we're going to try to do that. No to that. Yes to this, etc. Because that's what he would want. And we will try to be as fair and balanced as we can be with this allegedly reasonable man. And we'll try not to nitpick or strawman or take things out of context. And we will try to focus on the broader ideas that he wants folks to internalize and think are true. Things he brings up often, so there are sound bites of him saying it multiple times. Personal YouTube uploads of the topics relating to his larger project. What messages he wants to resonate with his audience. We will try to see how much chaff there is and how much wheat. And we're going to start by continuing our look at this climate interview with Joseph Rogan. And it's going to be great, except we now have to do an ad before we even really begin the video. And I'm sorry, but also, counterpoint, and this is important, watch these ads.
Sup, clothes heads? You clothes freak like me? Perhaps you also enjoy slapping things on your feet when you use them to walk. Oh boy, the naked world sure doesn't understand us, but we'll make them understand. We'll make them all understand. And so might I suggest the Tree Runner from Allbirds. It's a lightweight, breathable, and silky soft sneaker made from eucalyptus tree fiber. And it feels like absolutely nothing on the feet. What a dream. The perfect shoe to convert all the naked weirdos of the world. They do outnumber us, but not for long. Here, look at them. Look at mine. I named them Jerry Pocketcorn and Dynamite. Dynamite's the left one. See, Dynamite here, he owns a video store in Newport Beach. We don't know much about Johnny Pocketcorn, though. We don't know what his shady past is. Anywho, because they're so super lightweight, Tree Runners are the perfect shoe for things like travel and exploring a new city and exercising and just generally existing comfortably while in clothes, which is why all you naked heads will take to it immediately. So try them out, why don't ya? Find your new favorite shoes for sunny days and upcoming travel at allbirds.com. That is ALLBIRDS.com.
Hello, and welcome back to this video about... Right, this is gonna be a whole thing. Okay, it's our Jordan Peterson episode, and we're going to take a fair and balanced look at the things this very silly man actually says. And we're starting a little light and breezy with his statements about climate change whilst chatting with Joe Rogan. After confusing weather with climate and claiming the words climate and environment are meaningless and all that, Rogan asks him to clarify about what errors in the climate models he means specifically. And Peterson starts by saying,
look, imagine that you're going to predict how your life goes.
And then Peterson goes on for, no exaggeration, 6 minutes about how climate modeling is wrong because of the vague idea that things in general in your life are hard to predict. During this, no exaggeration, 6 minutes, he talks about how predictions get more difficult in the future, saying you can game it out by offering someone $5